excited. Say that again. Sawa, sawa. Thanks. I've not heard what he said, but thank you. Thank you, Daniel. So yeah, I'm super excited. Let's keep our options, opportunities that abound. The hashtag is Amsun. The at is at Amsun, UNBI. I'd like to welcome Chief, who in maybe 1 year and 40 days we're going to be calling Dr. Chief. So I'd like to welcome him to speak to us at Salimie na tuambie where our genes nywele ilienda wapi bwana yetu. Kindly let's appreciate him as he comes to the stage.
One, two, mic testing. Mic. Got it. So thank you very much for this chance to open this forum today. We are very grateful for your time. I know it's way past time, but thank you very much for coming. Our speakers are here. And I'm nothing much to say. Otherwise, karibuni.
The best of both worlds. And also because time was running out na tunaenda kufunga shule. So we are very, very happy. We have two speakers today, for like the 5th time that I'm saying that. We have Dr. Mercy Korir. I'm sure you know her. She's the Business Development Manager at AAR Hospital from November 2022. You know her formerly from Standard Group or KTN. You know her that she was the editor of Health and Science. She's also served as a health anchor at KTN. You know her from her time at all those places, and we love her for that. She's also a former student here at the University of Nairobi. So kindly, with a round of applause, help me welcome Dr. Mercy Korir. Karibu. Let's clap for her until she sits down. Asante, asante. Thank you. Thank you. Also, I'd like to mention that we have Sirkal with us. So please turn to your neighbor and say Sirkal. We have Sirkali with us. Once in Sirkali. Ama namna gani, my friend? So this is the Senior Program Officer currently of Primary Healthcare at Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She's also the former Senior Health Advisor of Policy in the Policy and Strategy Unit in the Executive Office of the President. Can I hear ish? She's also served as a medical officer, and she's a former student here at the University of Nairobi. Kindly join me in welcoming Dr. Wangari Nganga. Let's clap for her until she sits. Great to see you. Did you know fact that they were in the same class? Oh. Itabidi mhag tena mtu wa photography ajaona. Thank you so much. Aren't you excited for this conversation today? Asante sana. And as I said, my name is Misheni. Very, very happy to be here. Sasa. Mic check. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, turn to your neighbor and say there is abundance. There is abundance because we also have a senior doctor in our presence. We have an OBGYN doctor with us in so 5th years. You can ask those questions as an OBS guy. Unaweza uliza. He is the chief of party at Amref Health Africa and assistant specialist, and he considers himself a maternal child health advocate. Kindly join me in welcoming a former student at the University of Nairobi. Join me in welcoming Dr. Chris Baraza. Karibu sana daktari. Naona mpaka nimekusimamia. Yeah, absolutely. Karibu. Let's clap for him until he sits down. What happened to photography? Thank you so much for coming. Perhaps you can say something to us. Each one of you can just say hello to us even as we look to start in no specific order.
green light. Is it working? This one has. It's working. Hello.
Hi. Asante. That was good. Doing instruction.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here. The last time I was here, okay, no, I've been here since I was a student, I think once, but it's always a pleasure to be here among younger colleagues, share our experiences, and hopefully help somebody. So I look forward to an engaging and interactive night, not just us talking, but having a conversation with you. And we hope to have a good time. Thank you.
Good evening. Yeah, I feel very ambushed because I thought I would just come in and cheer Wangari.
You can cheer from the
I
front
can
line.
cheer from here. But I'm looking forward to an engaging discussion. I was telling your chair that I used to coordinate this engagement in 2002 when I was the I was the Amsun chair actually.
In when?
2002. Where were you? Anyway, so I'm looking forward to a discussion. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Perhaps I should mention that I know each one of these individuals at a personal level, and so I can tell you that they are great people who will definitely be here to tutafanya tunai actually. So I think a great way to start this off would be to find out how your day was. Because one of the questions I should mention that we had sent out a docs form to find out any questions that these good students here would have. So we'd like to hear what your typical day looks like. Perhaps you can start off with Daktari. Yeah, what your typical day looks like, so that we get a picture of how you're coming into this discussion. Even if you spent your time traveling from Turkana, we want to hear that.
Thanks. So today, yes, we've had a meeting the whole day with Dr. Wangari, and our meeting was centered around discussing issues to do with primary health care. Can you hear me? So our meeting was centered around discussing primary health care, and once you finish your schooling, you will be inclined towards several things. As you can see here, even in front of you, we have Mercy here who has done journalism. Wangari has done I've done both obstetrics and gynecology and public health. So depending on what you decide to do, it will determine the kind of day that you'll have. So a typical day to me actually usually is doing field work and actually being able to support women, especially children, out there in the field. Yesterday we had a lengthy day again with Wangari, going to the deepest parts of Turkana, just being able to really see how does it look like to access services in the remotest part of this country, where the distance between a household and a health facility is 30 kilometers. Okay, and a pregnant woman, you expect that they'll walk for 30 kilometers seeking for services. How does it look like? And what are some of the interventions that we can put in place for us to reduce that distance in as far as accessing healthcare service concerns? So that's what I do primarily, but I also see patients. So on a Friday afternoon, I will go to my clinic. On a Saturday afternoon, I'll go to my clinic. On Sunday morning, I'll do my operations between 8 and 11, rather between 7 and 11. So that's how my day will look like on a typical week. You should have asked, how does your week look like? That day is too short.
Approach, perhaps you can share with us, because we know and we discuss public health being such a paramount part of medicine. So yeah, so we discuss public health being such a paramount part, like in your what he said about the importance of primary health care, because we speak about it in community health, we speak about it as that it's important, and we cram it for the sake of the exam. But now we're curious to hear how that reflects like in your day.
That was actually what I was thinking about. Of the 3 years we were taught com health, I'm not sure if I did 30%. I'm not sure even that 30% was useful for the world that we're living right now, but I needed it to pass the exam. It's the only way out. Unlike Mercy, I haven't been back here. I think I was last year. What do you call that bash before? Yeah, there was fine with that. We had there's one where you go to a nice hotel, and then there's one you have in LT3. You don't have one in LT3. Okay. In 2011, we had one in LT3. I seem to feel like it was either just before or just after you select your internship centers. Just after you select your internship. So it's really a sort of farewell. What I left med school thinking community health is, or primary health is not what primary health is. So beyond me telling you it's very important, it'll be very difficult for you to appreciate until you see it. The translation of what you learn here as medicine, even if you go for your internship to a level 5, that already is going to be a huge challenge. The folks in the room are across all years. So for those of you who've done surgery, there used to be indications for admitting to ICU. Does this sound familiar to anyone? The ladies at the back are nodding. And then there used to be some criteria for doing CT scan. Those things used to be asked by Kimende, may he rest in peace. I don't know who asks you those questions nowadays. They used to be fairly vulgar when they were asked, but you know, there were things like if you have a patient with GCS less than 8, if you have a patient who has either had intoxication or lost consciousness, they should have a CT scan. These things sound familiar to you. When I did my internship in Nyeri PGH, that time it used to be called PGH, Provincial General Hospital, it was a level 5. And it was actually, for the most part, compared to other PGHs, very functional. Very, very functional. As in, we used to be able to do TSH, PSS. Those were things that other provincial general hospitals didn't have. However, of all the patients I ever had with a GCS of 3, not 8, none of them went to ICU. Because there's no ICU. So it's going to be just such a huge translation before we move from, actually, this is what you understand as medical care, because the advantage of being taught medicine in Kenya and in the University of Nairobi, since this is where we are, is that it's global standard. So they try to set you up to perform at the very basic, like anyone else who went to school anywhere else. System, the onus is on you to then translate what that is for where you practice. Where I practiced at first, I remember really I couldn't understand all the things you told me, and then now here, and then some of you guys have done OBS, I used to be at the criteria for cesarean. 2 previous scar, cesarean. Meconium grade 3, preeclampsia, and then they all come at the same time. They're all here, all of them. There's a 2 previous scar, there's meconium grade 3, and then there's 1 theater, and you're the intern. And the anesthetist, it's not an anesthesiologist, is in somewhere else. It's fixing a line in pediatrics. And so now you're there, and it is your everyday. It is not rare. There's going to be a gross desensitization from what you've learned to what you practice, even when you practice in the higher level facilities. Nowadays, I hear you can do internship in like Aga Khan, or, you know.
Oh yeah, yes you can,
So then you won't have that experience. You'll have a very different experience. You probably need to upgrade a little bit of what you've learned here. I remember my 5th year medical exam was asked, which is the best drug to give in hypertensive crisis?
Simama tu hapo tuulize mtu hapa.
The patient is having a hypertensive crisis. Yeah, let me just insult someone here. Those ones who close their ears in the library, because even the library, that's not who I was. But I did my fair share of work, right? I love it. But I really admired them. I went to casualty. I liked the high action, the ER kind of feeling. I liked it, so I went, and I followed the med students around. So I thought I would know this answer. I did not know this answer. Who can hazard a guess? It is not nifedipine. So in my day, there was no labetalol in casualty. I had never seen it. I had no idea, and you're all right, that was the answer. I had no idea. When we went to medical CKD, it was equivalent to day. And the world that I exist is to figure out how we move from 4 to 1800. That's basically what I want to tell you is it's not necessarily primary healthcare, but is what public health can be. When I went to school, public health was a HIV. True? Everyone who did public health was doing HIV, TB, and all those protocols, surgery, option A, option B. Are they still called that? All those, that was what they did every day. And I truly appreciate them, because when I was younger, not in med school, people really were dying like flies. I don't know how many of you experienced that time. There are those who come to med school later in life, but it really was terrible. Now, when I last practiced medicine, several of my diabetes patients used to tell me, I wish I had HIV, because I will live. You have diabetes now, it's one of the quickest ways to die. The first surgery, you went to a chemist, you said you are feeling thirsty, you are feeling tired, and you're given a bunch of things that are not going to control your sugar. By the time you ever get to a health facility, you have no kidneys. And now we are talking about dialysis, which will keep you maybe 2-3 years, and then it's time up. So it's a very doom and gloom situation that I'm painting, but that's not the point. The point was, when I left medical school, I realized I'd been prepared for 1% of a problem, and the problem was much larger and had a lot not to do with the hospital. It had to do a lot more with the political world, with the economics world, with the public health world. So I don't have a typical day like Baraza. I don't see patients anymore. I chose to do public health or health policy by very intentionally going into that space and sticking it out. I started in the whole health policy landscape. I did a lot of health economics. I'm doing a lot more planning now. And now I've moved on from a government job to a donor job. It's going to sound like fun to you. I spend a lot of time flying. It's actually not really nice when you're not 22. When I was 22, I wish I could spend a lot of my time flying. I spend a lot of time still doing this translation. I started from that time, from med school to internship, translating what I've learned and how it works in this world, the world now that I am in. And that step down from like an internship center to now where you practice as an AMO is, again, quite a step down or a step up, depending on where you go in the world. And then now I stepped into the policy world, and it's again a translation. So I spend a lot of my time translating. When they said yes, they meant this. When they didn't say this, they meant that. When this is what politician wants, this is. I spend a lot of my time doing that, but I get motivated by the fact that if I get it right, and it's a big if, then instead of one patient at a time, I'm able to do 1,000 patients at a time. I might take 10 years to do that. And so maybe someone may be asking, what's the value? I may as well have done 1-1 and have reached 1,000. Fine. Your cup of tea. For a long time, I wanted to be a surgeon, and I would have probably ended up that way, doing one patient at a time. A cardiac surgeon, let me correct you, I was not interested in lungs. They only had TB at the time, which I thought was boring. But I'm really glad I changed. I think this is a lot more challenging. I'm sure the cardiac surgeons would disagree. I'm sure they think they literally save lives. Maybe. It's a job where I can't see an end, which to me I find challenging. it's a job where I used to say this to some of my friends who asked me if I used to miss seeing patients. The beauty of seeing a patient is this is a 2 previous car. She needs a cesarean section. You do the cesarean section. You achieve a hemostasis. You close. Next. So that, there's 2 results. It's death or eupona. And then there's an end and then you start a new case. In this life of ours, is kind of no end. You're like chasing the wind, literally, like lamentations. You follow, this way, this way, this way. This when we actually lament a lot, we cry a lot. So you may not, you have to kind of define for yourself that this is where I have picked up this like freedom struggle, and I have pushed it up to this point, and then I have left it to those who come after, and have picked a different battle. All that is to say that the job really is amorphous. Don't ask me for any of my outputs. I have no idea. I spend a lot of my time.
Vibes.
It's enough.
Asante, thank you so much. You said you don't enjoy traveling like a 22-year-old. You wish. I'm sure there's some 22-year-olds here who would love to travel with you. So I'm sure they'll reach out to you afterwards. Mercy, it's now up to you to encourage us. Encourage us.
It's been doom and gloom. So, I was trying to wonder, how does my typical day look like? And mine is also amorphous in a way. But, so currently, let me start with my current one. And the previous one was a bit more exciting. So the current one is about top line, so we're looking at revenue. About bottom lines, you're looking at, are you breaking even, about to break even, are you about to make money? So basically, that is what I spend my day thinking about. So this involves meetings with potential clients. So if you think about clients, it can be anyone that you've thought about yourselves. It could be an organization, it could be an insurance, all of those things. And now just thinking about how do I work with them to bring business to my hospital. And as you're told, there's no free lunch. So what do I have to give them in return? So I look at what is our value proposition. So it's a lot of business thinking, a lot of proposals, a lot of, numbers and percentages. And I find it more exciting. It's a very different aspect of medicine that you are not taught, or that nobody will teach you. Because in med school, you're taught, if somebody has malaria, this is a treatment. Complicated malaria, there's a treatment. Nowadays, there's a vaccine, so this is a protocol. All of those things, it's very straightforward. But nobody tells you, probably Chris and Wangari would, how that, is it still queening? Do you still give queening? I don't know. So, yeah.
Where are the 4th years to give us the treatment?
Second line. Oh, so it's still there. Okay, so I'm not too far. Okay. So nobody tells you how that medicine makes it to the hospital such that you as a doctor orders it. And these are the things that Wangari was telling you, that when you go now to the facility and you start practicing, you are told something is out of stock. So there's somebody like me seated somewhere who's working out how to make sure that that medicine is there when you need it. It could be something simple as Panadol. And so there's somebody working on making that available. There's somebody working on the pricing, which is also part of what I do in my facility, so that you know how much am I buying, how much will I sell it for, what are my margins, things like that. Really the business aspect of medicine. So that's what I spend my day doing, and nobody will tell you that. You have a question? Okay. Previously, my life was more amorphous than it is now, and now it's a bit structured. So previously, I would spend my days thinking about what is the next story, what is the next thing to tell, what is trending, what are people thinking about, who do I talk to, where do I get them, how do I tell this story, am I going to write it, am I going to do it on TV, am I going to just do it on radio, who's best placed to do it. And it involved a lot of and I enjoyed at the time. Right now, I wouldn't. Traveling up and about. Tumezeeka. So it involves a lot of traveling within Kenya, outside Kenya, wherever it is that the story could take you. And it was exciting because during those times now, at least for me, I got to learn the public health aspects, what these guys are translating, trying to understand what they're doing. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Most of the times you don't. As they said, even them, they don't, because they don't see that end, because you want to see 1 + 1 is 2, but it's not always the case. It involved, part of what I really liked about being in media was talking to people, as in, so in media we call it human interest aspect of the story. So here you'll meet people in the ward, you know, when you do that social history, mother of CG4 lives where, you do it as a matter of finishing the social history. But for me now as a journalist, that was my story. This mother of 4, where do they live? What is ailing them? How does it contribute to their health and well-being? And I realized, and it's one of the things I used to tell doctors most of the time, our issues with patients was always about communication, because you don't understand the context that this person comes from. So you will prescribe some fancy diabetes medicine or hypertension, and you give them a TCA of a month later. They come and the sugars are high, they have complicated. Then you're wondering, mama ukukunywa dawa kwa nini? You didn't realize.
Umeze hii dawa.
Yes. Ulikuwa umeze hii dawa kwa nini? And then you get upset. There are some doctors when you watasomea mgonjwa, but you didn't realize that she can't even afford food for herself. I met patients on ARVs who are struggling because they just didn't have food. They were walikuwa nakunywa tu strungi hata haina chai, haina sukari, because they can't afford. But you as a doctor on this other end, you're wondering, kwa nini huyu mtu aponi? So that is where I came in, and that's part of what I really enjoyed about media, bringing out those stories, talking to those people in those different parts. One of my favorite stories was in Turkana. I've been trying to remember the name of that health center, where they did a very beautiful facility, mawe nini, but women were still not coming to deliver at the hospital. But when they did a Manyata style kind of homestead, women came. And they had another shelter, women came, and they still achieved the same thing. So sometimes context of where people come from is even more important than all the medicine you learn. It's important to know all of those things, but once you start practicing, remember that you're treating the person, you're attending to the person, not the disease. So sometimes some people come just because they want to talk to you. There's one of my colleagues they organized a medical camp. Then a woman came and she was very happy. I've met the best doctor in the world. She tuliongea for 20 minutes. So she just had stress. She needed somebody to talk to. So they ended up chatting with the doctor. There was not even any dawa given. But she went home very happy, having met the best doctor in the world. So remember that you're attending to people who have lives like all of you. You've come from somewhere, you have a story, you have difficulties, challenges, and sometimes those are even bigger than the disease that the person has. So that is what I used to do in media, and that's where we used to find our stories. So if ever you want to get into that social history, that is where the story is, and so that's what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But now I'm counting money.
Counting the paper. Yeah, that social history of asking, unakunywa maji kutoka wapi? And what kind of cooking, do you use firewood or gas? That one that we skip over, I guess that's where the story really lies. And also, we were speaking about this earlier, and so maybe this is where the encouragement will come from. It's impressive that you, acha nikusomee CV yako. She is an MBCHB career, as well as an MA, Master of Arts from the University of Nairobi in Communication and General, as well as she carries an MBA in Marketing and Finance from the United States International University, USIU. And so it's impressive that you've come from journalism and moved into business. And so perhaps this is, you can talk to us about just what you were sharing on the versatility that medicine allows us to have.
So I was telling Michelle earlier, it's important that you do your internship. Previously, I'd met medical students who are determined. I remember there's a friend who said, I'm going to be a dermatologist. The other day, she was interviewing to be an ENT surgeon. So it's important, it's important that you do your internship. Your internship sort of, it opens your eyes to things that you will enjoy or will not enjoy. Personally, I think one of the things I don't miss about clinical practice is being called at night. Daktari, tukona resuscitation, daktari, bleeding, you know, all of those things, as in, and those calls used to come, wakati kausingizi kamekuja katamu. That is when you're called, and you know you have to. You are the backbone of the hospital. So internship really shows you what you will enjoy doing, what you will like doing, and the path that you want to take in medicine. And you come in at a time where now you're not really restricted to clinical practice. I mean, look at us guys here, except him who's still practicing. I also wanted to be a surgeon, a neurosurgeon to be specific. Hopefully, I can do that for self-actualization.
You're still young, very young.
Still young. So, but now when you think about, you'll be woken up trauma, somebody has a subdural hematoma, then you have to come and do barholes. So anyway, so internship opens your eyes and makes you know what suits you, and you'll be able to take that path. So for me, I started in Amsun as an editor. Back then we called it Synapse, and then I revived the Nairobi Journal of Medicine. I don't know if it's still there, but nowadays you guys call it the Amsun Gazette. Yeah, so Synapse was what we had then. And then I transitioned, I was the Secretary General of Amsun, 09-10. So I had the advantage of having seen student politics differently, and then from being in Amsun, I found myself with KMPDU. Us guys were the ones who formed the numbers to go and agitate for better pay of doctors, because we had just finished. So it made me see medicine differently, from a different perspective, from all of these aspects that nobody tells you. Because if you're not being paid well as a doctor, and there are all of these societal expectations, some of you, people have sacrificed so much to pay for you to come to school because they expect you to give back to the family. So there was a lot. And then at the time, I remember in 2011, that time when we had our first strike, our agitation was, yes, of course, we want better pay, but there are all of these other things that we are talking about, where facilities are not adequate, you don't even have a call room, you don't have anywhere to change when you're in the hospital, you know, all of those other things that make life easy. You don't have an ICU. So you've learned all of these nice things, but you're not able to serve your patient. But the media just reported that, you know, doctors just want pay, which we got, but the problem still persisted. So after internship, I thought maybe there's something that I can do differently. And my mathematics, like Wangari's, was like, if you do a story or you write a story, millions of people will see it. You'll do a 2-minute clip, millions of people will see it, and probably it will make a difference somewhere, as opposed to sitting in the clinic. So that's how I ended up doing a master's in communication. But it was really so that, I did it so that the people in media can take me seriously, because if you just show up as a doctor who is interested in doing media, in a country where nobody has ever done that before, they would probably tell you, you know, you need to go. And I was telling the people at the conference, the first media house I went to, that's exactly what happened. They're like, yeah, we'll call you. And they've never called me. But we still meet with that editor. I'm like, I'm still waiting for your call. Because it was then. So it was more for me to be taken seriously so that I can start and pursue this particular field, and so that's how I ended up there. But then as COVID came, and now I was no longer, and I started as an intern in the newsroom again, from interning in medicine. Then I went to being a reporter. So by the time COVID was coming in 2020, I was an editor. Now I had a desk to run with reporters to manage. And now the conversations had moved from just doing stories to issues of revenue, sustainability of the business. And I found it interesting and fascinating. So that's how I ended up doing an MBA, because I was interested in how do businesses run, how do you balance all of these things, how do you make money, just to understand how do you manage people, the HR aspect of it. So I was just doing it more for me to understand how businesses run. And we were, at the time, I think one of the most successful desks at the Standard Group. 2020, 2021 financial year, we did about 100 million in revenue just from the stories that we are doing as a desk, from TV, radio, print, podcasts, digital. So all of those combining. So knowing who to talk to, how to give them the value proposition so that they can sign a check for you. And I found those interesting. And that's now how I even ended up now being in AR, developing the business on that side. But now this is the core business of health, which is treating people, but at the same time, making sure the business is not only offering quality services, but is also sustainable and can generate, something for the shareholder at the end of the day.
Yeah, while still serving the patient as the priority.
That's why I started with quality healthcare service, because the moment you compromise on that, remember, medicine is about life and death. So the moment you compromise on quality because you want.
So me, in my mind, I'd already planned, I'll go there, I do my... But that's earned me weeks in internship, huh? So don't try that, because...
This is where you say, akili mtu wangu, akili.
Because when I was doing my internship, of course they were misusing us, huh? Because right now, I can't tell you how much I earn for doing a one cesarean section. When you're... But it's
Friday is coming.
It's much more than 15K, okay? But of course, I'm a consultant now. So I go to Kisumu and I realize I'm the only medical officer actually in town, okay? So as energetic as I was those days, I reached Kisumu this morning, then I'm called, hey, there's a locum at Aga Khan. Are you available tonight? I'm like, who am I not to? See, I'm looking for money. Jumped into the local Aga Khan. As I'm doing my local Aga Khan, I'm told tomorrow in afternoon there's a Keja. Are you available? I said, yes, I'm available. So actually I didn't bother to look for a house in Kisumu for 3 weeks. I was just working. So I had a sister, my cousin there, so I could just drop from Aga Khan in the morning. I go to her house, I change, go back to the district hospital, I do my ward round. By around 1, I duck for Acacia for a whole 3 weeks. Just locums. Then I realized this is a rat race actually. It's a rat race because I used to be very liquid, but when I tried to account for my money, I never found where the money used to go to. It's like my brothers always knew when I have money, so they could just call when I've just been paid by Acacia and someone checks in. By the way, my school fees has not been paid. Do you have some money? And I'm like, have you seen me just getting paid right now? And Natumado. So then now, after my internship, one year after internship, I get a posting order. Those days, the provincial medical officer of health could give you a posting. So he posts me and says, you are going to be a medical superintendent in this hospital. Clueless. Zero management skills. These things you are taught in undergraduate year or healthcare management, zero application skills. Trust you me, I've told this the Department of Public Health, because I was a lecturer there before, I had to move out because I told them, for ground things are different. The things that you guys teach these folks in undergraduate, when you come out there, there's a stark difference. So here I am, the second day I'm sitting in a committee meeting. The committee members are very happy. They're looking at these young. The fortunate thing about being a doctor, there are two things that I always say I never regret. Number one, you will always assume a leadership role wherever you go, irrespective of your age. So you're an MO intern, you go to maternity, all the nurses say, daktari ni wewe, okay? So unfortunately, we don't know how to do a VE, and you are the intern, and this mother is actually having a contracted pelvis, you will misdiagnose. And the midwife is sitting there watching. So you are the doctor. The moment you reach there, she takes a back seat. However senior she is as a midwife. So it's you actually to make a decision. Do I consult her? Do I eat a humble pie and consult her? Or I go ahead and do my own stuff in there. Most of us get lost. You do a VA and you're like fully dilated, okay?
Actually, we are streaming, just a kind reminder.
Sorry, we're in a medical platform. So fully, it's yeah, fully dilated, and then you go there and you're like, this cervix is closed. Eat an humble pie. You're like, this cervix is actually closed, but I said it's fully dilated. So I was rushing this patient to the delivery room. Anyway, so I get there and we are discussing in the board, and the committee members are telling me, Doctor, you need to approve this ambulance. So I'm like, for what reason? You're approving this ambulance because this ambulance usually, every Thursday, it carries the mother of the HAO to go do shopping in town. So please approve. And that's the first time I actually resigned from my job. After 1 week, actually, I resigned. I said, carry someone's mother to go and do shopping. I'm hanging myself. So that was management for 1 1. For 1 1. I was never taught in medical school that you'll be an imprest holder and you'll be able to, an AI holder and all that, and you'll be able to do such things. So I resigned. But then after I resigned, I told myself, where am I going? Okay? Luckily, I had done some, okay? Those days being a trainer of trainers was a very expensive role, you know. Yeah, so I was become a TOT. So some people had realized that I'm competent in HIV training, so I got a job. I was actually called to do now program work. And that's how I moved away from being a Minister of Health employee, PNP, permanent and pensionable, to now a contract every year. Okay? But I found comfort therein because I could make decisions that were relevant. But I said, let me start with the MBA. Remember, my MBA was coming number 2 in my line of thoughts. So I went in for an MBA, and it was one of the most important things I've ever done. And I want to tell you folks, being a doctor, you get into management. The second advantage of being a doctor is it gives you a platform that now makes you do many more things, okay? Not just clinical practice. So I went into doing an MBA, and I learned a lot of things that I should have learned during my undergraduate studies. In my new job, it became very helpful because I learned about finance, about HR, about strategic management. I can look at the books of accounts and I can tell you, here, kuna vile unandanganya, okay? Or here, this is what I'm supposed to do. So it's a course that if you're going to get into management, basic MBA, very, very critical for anyone, irrespective, because it's a general course that actually helps you to circumvent a lot of things. So I did that, then continued doing my work, but it helped me a lot in terms of just managing human beings, because I realized actually managing human beings is one of the most complex things that anyone can ever have. 0 in my account after 10 years, okay? So in 2016, I came back to do ops gain. And I remember I even had a fight with my wife because she asked me, what do you mean? Ati? You are resigning to go where? To do ops gain. Will ops gain give us food for the next 4 years? And I said, I'm going to do it because I felt like I must do it. That's how we have a disagreement until someone, our best couple, had to come in to intervene after 2 weeks of not agreeing on several things. Anyway, but I came back, did ops gain. But now, looking back, we discuss again with her, and I tell her, that's one of the best decisions I've ever made. Because a balance between clinical practice and public health made my 4 years of ops guy in MEd the easiest ever. What people are struggling with proposals and all those things that we do in terms of research, we had already finished. I finished in year 2 and started helping over 200 students to write their proposals and even analyze their data.
At a fee.
Of course, at a fee. So I was doing data analysis for a good number of them. By the time I realized, actually, I'd done over 200, okay? Data analysis for my colleagues. Because for me, it was much easier. Then I told myself, had I come earlier, it would have been more complicated. Because a number of our colleagues used to spend an extra year or 2 just because of the proposal, for that matter. To me, it was very easy, okay? Because I had the background in research, so I could be able to do my proposal very fast, then started helping my colleagues to do analysis for that matter. So the second thing is that it gives you a bit of a sense of, the agility, the versatility, so that I can be able to comfortably discuss public health issues. I can be able to comfortably discuss management issues. Tukienda finance, tukienda sahi na masi hapa tutaongea tu vizuri. Tukiingia hapo na Wangari tuko tu sawa. When I get into, we have a gynecological wall, I can still discuss issues in gynecology, clinical practice very well. And I've learned how to balance that so that I can be able to use my public health knowledge to influence decisions, even as I sit with my patient one-on-one. Because I'll now go beyond just a typical clinical doctor, but I put on my public health mind and really try to think, by the time this lady is conversing in front of me, okay, what are some of the bottlenecks that she may have undergone for her to reach where she is? Maybe the health system failed her. Maybe from where she stays until where the hospital is, maybe there was a problem. Or maybe the hospital where she went to, they gave her drug, but that drug was expired. Or they gave her drug that should be refrigerated, but it wasn't refrigerated. So from a public health perspective now, I look at it and say, the cold chain system was not functioning. So how do you manage the cold chain system so that this drug could have helped this mother to avoid this conversion that is there? So a balance of all those things helps a lot in terms of just understanding. I'm not telling you to do all those things because it takes a lot of time. Everything comes at an opportunity cost. Okay? It's an opportunity cost for everything that you undertake. So you can make a decision. And by the way, if you're confused about what you want to be in future, don't worry. Okay? It's normal. Okay? It's very normal. If you reach 60 and you don't know what you want to do in future, don't worry. If you finish internship and you still don't know what you want to do in future, don't worry. You're not the first one. At least I'm here. I went through that. Huh? Yeah, I was a bit confused. But through that confusion, you get exposed and you come up with something that can be able to, and things change. Today you may want to be the top surgeon, as Wangari said. After 2 years, you realize actually you are a dermatologist, a psychiatrist, or actually we call ourselves amorphous escapists. So you are actually an amorphous escapist, so to speak, the people in the public health arena. So don't worry, things will shape up as time goes by. But one of the things I want to leave you with, as I finish, is identify where your passion is. Okay? Listen to yourself. If you get into a surgical department and you avoid going to theater, just know uko sio kwako. Sawa? If you Skype theater almost all the time, just know uko sio kwako. But you love going to Mathare for psychiatry. Every time you basi ya psychiatry imefika wewe uko hapo number 1. Or when you like going for community health, every time you go there and you find some fun in walking around those villages and checking whether there's water in the compound and checking what kind of ventilation is there in the homesteads, go and do public health. Don't force yourself in neurosurgery just because your parents or your colleagues are doing neurosurgery. You'll be very frustrated. And as Amsun chair, I know, I had to deal with several cases. Even during the MEd program, we had to deal with several cases of people who dropped out because their parents forced them to do medicine. A parent will come, we are in 4th year, and says, I've spent 2.5 million on module 2, bringing you to school. And one of my colleagues, one of my students actually, because I used to go to that office there, in the dean's office, as the Amsun chairs could be called in. Then you find a parent, a father, and a whole man crying. Okay? Why are you crying, mzee? Hii kijana amenikosea sana. Okay? Haki pesa yenye nimetumia kwa hii kuleta huyu kijana shuleni, alafu anakataa kuja shuleni. So together with the dean, we could now go over it. One of them actually said, me, I'm going to do banking. And she left in third year. I met her the other day. She's a very successful banker. The other one said, I'll finish, because I'm in fourth year. I'll finish, because she had gotten a supplementary. I'll finish. The moment she finished, she brought the certificate to the mother and dad and said, you wanted the certificate, here it is. I'm going to do music. Okay? And they went to do music, and they're very successful in that industry for that matter. So what's your passion? Don't do something because your dad wants you to do it. Don't do something because your friend is doing it. Don't do something because you think being a neurosurgeon is gisty. Okay? But do it because that's the passion that you have for what you want to do. And you will always find peace in whatever you do if you follow what your passion is all about. Asante.
Asante. There's so many important things that you said. Let's appreciate. Yeah. And there's so many important things that you said, but I think the one that we can ride on is one thing that we actually discussed with another speaker here on the need for us as medics to realize that yes, we are important because you are daktari, but the world is evolving and the world is dynamic. You no longer perhaps carry that same what's the word, vibe as being a doctor that used to be there. So there's need for us to realize and to come to terms with the fact that you need to work on your CV. You need to do like dating. You need to put yourself out there to explore options, and those are the same options and experiences that will build on and have made you the doctor that you are today. So actually, Wangari, perhaps this would be a time for you to tell us too the experiences that you had that now put you at a place where you could be serving in the executive office of the president. Such a big title. So you can tell us how you ended up there too, rather briefly.
I can't repeat the entire story, but yes, a lot of it is circumstantial. But before I forget, I think there's a few things I want to say. One is to the ladies. There's the way you see yourself, and then there's the way the world sees you. And sometimes those two are not always the same. And then I want to say to the men, take time to notice that. The ladies seated next to you are your colleagues. You've been together since first year. You've gone out together. You've been in the library together, in discussion groups, in theaters. When you go to practice, if Chris and I walk into a hospital, Chris is the doctor, not me. This is the way the world that you will walk into will see you. I am a nurse until I prove otherwise. This is the way the world. This is not to discourage you. This is to tell you that a rose is a rose by any other name, right? It does not take away your MBCHB, but don't apologize. So a lot of times it comes across that we come off as angry. You're not being angry. You're rightfully claiming your stake. And that's why I said to our male colleagues, take time. You're actually not the same. And I'm sure I'm breaking all the gender vibes, right? You're not the same. It is by design that you're not the same. If God was, he'd have kind of just made us the same, right? You're not the same, but take time to notice that the way you may see the person next to you, the way you've seen her, is not how the world sees her. And so she has a very different experience of the world. And therefore, a lot of risks our male colleagues took, our female colleagues may not take. I want to encourage those who don't have children, please do not have until you are ready. Not we, not you and your BFF and you guys have been vibing since first. No. I will repeat again. And if you are unaware of methods of contraception, there is an obstetrician gynecologist. But there's also Clinic 66, and please don't feel shy, because that pregnancy utabeba peke yako. I had my first child at 37. I was an elderly primigravida. Yes, 35. Sorry, I'm 37 now. I know this is Mercy's first child, and she's my same age. It was by design, and a lot of the chances. I'm sorry, she's 36. Even me, I'm 37 in September. You're still an elderly primigravida, my friend. I cannot tell you how I got to this time, because I do remember myself in a ward round here on GFA, GFB. That's where the pregnant people still are, reading loudly for everyone to hear. 60 people, elderly primigravida, and we all look at her. Like, what were you waiting for all this time? You couldn't find sperm, and they come out 300 million at a time. What was the problem? I will really encourage you, ladies, please create for yourself opportunities to change your mind. There are some things that will make it more difficult, not impossible, more difficult to change your mind. If there is another human being that is dependent on you, you just have to wait a little longer. And then to encourage you that it is okay to be bold, it is okay to be aggressive, make those difficult, impossible choices, make them. Be as daring. And if you find yourself a little uncomfortable, waking up and quitting your job, you are normal. It is not unusual. I say that knowing that a lot of my friends who I know would have wanted to do a lot more professionally chose a different route at that time, and it becomes that much more difficult. I have a very, very good friend, who, if I say more in this room, it is possible she can be identified, but it took her also 10 years to come back to school, and she had a free ride. She had a full scholarship because of how well she did when we finished. But because of non-professional life choices, which at the time felt like the right ones, it just takes you so much longer. And this is not just a money choice. That thing called love and marriage hits different for women. It just really does. Take as much time as you can to create opportunities for yourself to change your mind. That generally means have a baby when you shall I repeat? When you are ready. If you're ready now, you're ready now. And that thing is real. That it's just, you just know. There's no scientific method of knowing when you're ready. When you're ready, you will know. If you're not ready, the right time is not after med school. No, it's not after a med. No, it is when you are ready. Please, if you do not know how to handle your own money, that is an even bigger problem than passing med school. You must know where your money comes from and where you put it. I'm speaking to the ladies. The men, the world belongs to men. You guys survive. I will encourage you. No. It is true. In Dr. Baraza's story, where was his wife pensioned? She was holding the fort, She was holding the purse probably as well. Yes. Please take the time to create opportunities for yourself to change your mind. Don't trap yourself. It just becomes that much more difficult to make a U-turn. By that I'm saying, if your passion is music, it is okay. Your passion can be music. Right now, you're investing on a specific talent or a specific skill set. Figure out how you can use that skill to make money so that you do music. If you can figure out in your life how quickly you can give yourself the opportunity to do what you would like to do with your time, Someone asked me last week, actually, if I had carte blanche and I could choose today exactly what I'd want to do, what would I do? And that answer, everyone's answer was very exotic. I don't know, carpenters, do you run a library? Jungus like running library. It makes it sound educated. And not to sound sacrosanct, but I would do exactly what I'm doing today. I would be a public health doctor of sub-nature. I may have a different employer, but I'm very happy waking up doing what I do today. And so I'm lucky and blessed. I understand that clarity doesn't come to everyone at the same time. But I am also very aggressive at giving myself the opportunity to change my mind. So if I changed my mind about what I do today and what I want to spend my time doing, I can afford to. By every sense of that word, afford. So ladies, please give yourselves the opportunity to change your mind. Someone had me. And then lastly, for the men, the lady seated next to you, the world does not see her the way you see her. In your mind, you probably know she's actually smarter than you, she's this, she's that, when you present yourselves outside that gate, you are the doctor, she's at best the nurse. At best. My daddy. I spend a lot of my time with politicians. I still do. I don't know that that's actually glamorous. In the amorphous space, it's condemned. And probably some of you feel that way as well. I don't blame you. I probably thought that at some point. I would rather spend my time hearing any questions if there will be, but I will say this about that time in my life. Medicine can make you think things are very black and white. If a patient's not alive, they're dead. If they're, it's just that simple. There is a whole spectrum. There's a really long gray area that I don't know I had intentionally explored before my amorphous life. And I like to think of the amorphous life as not without form, but can take any form. You're really agile. You can be a journalist, you can be running projects or clinics, or you can be hanging out with politicians. You can be anything if that's your vibe. You also can be a fantastic neurosurgeon if that's your vibe. And for those who do want to do clinical medicine, please go for it. Do it hard, love it. And then all your problems in delivering that healthcare will be public health problems, and then we can talk that time. But in the meantime, it is absolutely fine to do a clinical master's and enjoy it. The time in my amorphous life, I would say I learned what gray is. I learned not to over-moralize things. There are things that you imagine this is the right way, this is the wrong way. As I said, medicine is very black and white. The last thing I'll say about that time is a reflection that only became important when I was interested in medicine at scale. When you mention the list of all leaders of government, let's start with the Kenyan one. At the national level, at the county level, if you guys know them, how many doctors? How many? How many lawyers? Many. How many of you guys were engaged either by the Kenya Kwanza or the, what is it called now? It changes names every week. Azmio team. It's the same one. It's true. It's CORD, it's NASA, it's what. How many of you are engaged when they were writing the health part of their manifesto? How many of you have friends in law school? Do you have friends in law school? Do you know that they were involved in writing on those two manifestos? They were involved in their campaigns. They are the ones, that's how Kina Babu end up being someone, Kina Zak. People who you despise. You're wondering how. We are very sapiosexual, yeah? We think intelligence is everything and we get off of it. That is not the world. That is this world, LT3, over here. We're telling the driver who brought us that the one place where the word daktari doesn't work is here, because everyone is. Like, you know, you need to be a doctor of something that is more serious than just being a doctor, yeah? But in the world out there, we are not the top of the food chain that we are made to think we are. We really aren't. We're not even number 2. We are not top 10. We are lucky to be top 100. So for me, that was a very important realization, and I decided, since I'm not very interested in becoming the frontline politician myself, I'm happy to spend time with them, understand how they think, understand what motivates them, and how can I make my problems in the hospital, in the health facility, your problems? Where can we meet halfway? How can my agenda become yours, and how can yours become mine? Was I successful? Perhaps maybe it rubbed off the other way more. I became more of a politician than convincing them. But yes, it was luck and blessed. It was giving myself the opportunity to change my mind. Now, with a young child, it is unlikely that I could have done that job at the performance level it needed. It is just the way it is. God made us with the mammary glands that lactate. It's the way it is. It's not unfair. It just is. So how do you take advantage of the situation and then the job you want to pursue or not at that time? It was also very humbling. I got that opportunity when I was fairly young. I started the job when I was 32. Most of my colleagues were in their 60s, in their 70s, and someone thought I had something to say and that the something was useful. The last thing I'll say before I shut up and really listen is everything they've said is true. It does help to have strong papers before you can open your mouth. The papers will speak for you, right? So your degrees and a good CV, and it's really a little bit of a game, an acting game. It's the best actress wins the Oscar. It's not really the best technical mind. But it's also partnerships. Partnerships, relationships, friendships, networks, whatever, godfatherism, whatever you want to call it, that is the currency of the world. When Mercy was still working in journalism, I would look for her. What can we do together? Chris is working where he is. I'm working where I am. I look for him. I'm fairly new in my role. I'm only 4 months in, but I'm still looking for people I know. And where I can, I will lift them up. Where they can, they lift me up. So it'll be you guys to lift each other up. It'll be one of you who is fairly good at the business side, can open a hospital, will employ some of you, or will invite you guys to also be shareholders. It'll be just here, and a little north and a little south. 5 years ahead of you, 5 years behind you. So don't spend all of your time in, what was that book for pathology called? Robbins. It was called Robbins.
Robbins will give some of us a heart attack.
Yeah, don't
use Baileys and love.
spend Baileys and love. Yeah. Oh God, Katzung was really in Chinese. And then there was one for, what is that stuff Gonti used to teach us? That was Greek.
Immunology.
Spend some of your time building your social capital. At the level we are, nobody hires blindly. It doesn't matter how good your paper is. Because of the 1,000 applications that come, all of them did their undergrad in UON, all of them did their masters in LSE or in Harvard or wherever. They've all worked in those big organizations, all of them. So who people to see who you are. How do you work? Your diligence, your performance, your dedication, your going over and beyond this initiative, you going the extra mile. Create opportunities for people to see you do that. Sometimes it can even just be in casualty, you're shadowing an MEd person. Create how you work. If you can afford to, not everyone can afford to do this in their life, and you can do it for free, as in without pay, do so. It doesn't go for nothing. My first 5 years in public health, I did for free. Literally, I did for free. I was lucky that I had another job as a medical officer, so I could afford to do this for free, but I literally worked 2 jobs, one without pay. But it helped me so that when I wanted to completely shift to the policy world, I had 5 years of work experience. So then it jump, such a cut. Take care of each other. You guys have each other's backs. When you can lift someone up and be lifted up, reach out. Ni hapa tu. It's just amongst you. The guys who are hiring now are the guys we went to school with. So look out for each other when you have that opportunity to. And now that I have a mic, I'm taking the liberty to, I ask someone to ask me. You're out there making paper. You don't have time for DMs unless they're coming with business ideas. Time. Anyone with a question for us?
Any question to our speakers? I guess they've really covered a lot of the questions, actually. Covered a lot.
Luckily for me, I think my plan, except the neurosurgery one, has gone according to what I had envisioned. Okay, the media was not in the plan. It was more like a trial and error, then it worked. But what I knew for my plan was I wanted to make a career, if I may call it that, make a name for myself, finish everything to do with school before I could start a family. And so for me, once I ticked all of those boxes, the last one was the MBA. Now it was time for that. And now when it came time for that, even the kind of job that I chose was now a toned down job that allows me now to be able to bring up a child, do the motherhood things, because now my job is 8 to 5, I don't work on holidays, my weekends are free. So you, as she said, it has to be about you, not we. Because it's, as in, if you're suffering, if you get preeclampsia, for example, you'll be alone. If you're, so it has to be, it helps that you have a we who is supportive also, but even if they're there, your colleagues are graduating and they're getting married and kids. No. You do it if it suits you at the end of the day. Married and kids. No. You do it if it suits you at the end of the day, and you'll find that you'll have a more fulfilling career, and you'll be able to. When I was in media, I used to not like asking women. Okay, after some time, how do you do the work-life balance? And it's because nobody ever asked the men, how do you manage work-life balance? But every woman is always asked. So you have to be very conscious so that you do things for yourself and when you want to do them, so that now you're able to navigate through it, whether there is a we or there is none. Because the reality is, these guys, once you're there, they leave you to do everything. Them, they are busy chasing MBAs and monies and all of those things. And you become everything. So you really have to make sure you're in that mental space and you're ready for it. Whether it's before your career or after you've made a name for yourself. So that if you have a name, you'll comfortably eat from that name that you have made for yourself because you'll have done something about it. Or you start, then you come and pick up later. But it really has to be about you. This is not to alienate the men. Wangari said the world is yours. Somehow things work for men in a way. You have it easier, but for us ladies it's a bit difficult. So if you're called an elderly primie like some of us, don't worry. It's your choice.
A round of applause for our speakers.
The boy child, don't worry.
Tuko sawa.
Tuko sawa, sindio?
Yeah. Any question for our speakers? Request that we keep the questions brief, concise, and pinpoint. Yes. Brief, concise, and pinpoint.
Hi, my name is Eugene. I'm in year 2. My question is, you guys have explained your lives as zigzag, but when you look back, I'm sure you see the line to all those things you did and how they lead up to now. Are you guys open to maybe pioneering non-clinical electives and internships, maybe for us to have much clearer lines and achieve the things you guys are achieving in 10 years, maybe in 5? Yeah.
Thank you. That's a challenge to you. Another question?
Hi, my name is Melvin.
My question is for Dr. Wangari. Having worked in the office of the president, what other opportunities are there for medic doctors to work in such offices, like for us who have trouble with the theater kidogo? What other opportunities are there for medics in government in such high positions? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Another question, perhaps on this side? Sorry. You'll just see. Here we go.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. This is actually quite inspiring and affirming us as a girl child. Recently, we were having a discussion with my classmates as finalists, and we were actually wondering how to put ourselves out there. And you know, sometimes even in a ward round, you don't know if your opinion will be. Or maybe you take up a role in maybe research, Ukoko HOD department, and they're looking at you, young girl, what do you want? So I'm feeling this is actually very encouraging to us who are bold and maybe sometimes we are watered down. Thank you so much.
Sante, truly, you are bold and we are bold. Any questions on this side? Yes. And start off with your name also and your phone number.
Good evening, everyone. In a situation where you had to tone down probably your personality to have to fit in and have able to have a voice in those tables and make those decisions. Has it come to a position where you had to just crawl back in a corner to just get your way around things? Yeah, that's my question.
Thank you, Cinnamon. Yes, you can also start off with your name.
My name is Masinde. Okay. My name is Masinde. I wanted to ask from your own personal perspective, experience, and let's say experience especially. Is there any hope for doctors in the next 10 years? Based on the current events and based on during your times when you were in 3rd year, 4th year, how you viewed the medical field and now. Is there any hope for us?
Let me just tell you, if Dr. Masi answers that question, Gojini Mski. Anyone else? Yeah, 2 more, 3 more. Yes, Jeremy. Jeremy's question I can predict is on business. This guy.
My name is Jeremy. And I wanted to ask a question concerning public health and career in your public health is just a paper. So I wanted to know, if you want to consider a career in public health, the kind of things you need to do for you to stand out, especially, some of us who are the first doctors for the whole generation. We don't know anyone, so just wanted to know how to make yourself stand out if you want to go into a career in public health, and whether it's true that it's about connect. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Gesari.
Hi, my name is Gesare. Thank you so much for the talk. It was lovely, especially for the ladies. I felt like the men needed to walk out for a minute. So I wanted to ask, I'm informed by our chairman that the 2 of you are the firstborns.
please confirm, or eldest daughters? Oh, okay.
Dr. Masi? Dr.
You're the
Masi.
firstborn. Okay, okay. So, first of all, I did not hear you guys talk about family support. So, I'd like to understand how was it like for the family, because as Jeremy has said, some of us are like the first doctors. Out here, doing public health, you're not a doctor. So, how did you handle that? How did you overcome that? Does it get better? And to the firstborn, Dr. Masi Korir, how is it for you as the eldest daughter? It's like you carry the whole family. You mother everyone. So kindly let us know how you're handling that. Yes. Thank you.
Hi. So thank you so much for the conversation we've had so far, and of course we are learning a lot. So I have one question to. Oh, my name is Babu Owen. Yeah. So I have one question to Dr. Chris. I think Dr. Chris, you talked about having a balance between leadership and now clinical practice. So my question is, how exactly does balance look like in terms of clinical practice and being in the leadership space that you are in? Because maybe some of us want to be in that space but wondering, how do I manage this? Is it that OpsGyn is not as busy? Or can we still do that with a neurosurgeon or cardiologist or in another practice? So how does that look like?
Asante, asante sana. Any final question? A chance? Someone? Yes, this wonderful lady here.
Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. For starters, I'm not even a doctor or pursuing medicine for starters. But my question is, do you think in the future, the way one person asked if doctors would be relevant, and you said that there's a place where lawyers are seen and lawyers have a higher role in like the Health Act and all, in making acts. Do you think there's a possibility that there could be the emergence of a career that could fit both? Because some people do divert from studying medicine, from being the typical lawyer, as a typical doctor, and some people do divert from being the typical lawyer. So do you see a place in the future where there could be a merge of both those careers, so that there could be a place for both doctors and lawyers in the future?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Sawa. I can't turn her down.
Hi, my name is Sharon. I have a question. You've mentioned in your summary for us, when you do what exactly you want to do, so maybe you do the short courses, certificate that will build up the CV. So to doc who is in AMREF, are there any short courses or that one can do, let's say during a holiday, when you have time?
Could we tackle those ones first before we forget? Yeah, and then.
That's actually it.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for your question.
Gentleman, the DJ.
First, I'll start with those from online. So, Aruka is asking, this one is a question to Dr. Wangari. Does Dr. Nganga have any regrets? So that's Aruka
Just
online.
Just a minute. We could answer these ones, then you can do the online ones. Na kazi kwa mingi, sindio? So thanks. So I don't have a uterus, but on 2nd of Can't remember. Anyway, so I'll handle. There's a gentleman here who asked a question. There was a number of related question. There was another gentleman here who asked a question. So I'll answer those three from this perspective. Who has ever read about Ben Carson? Yeah, all of us, right? Yeah, because when I was in primary school, Ben Carson was my mentor. And I was to be a neurosurgeon like him, okay? Yeah. But when I reached high school, I realized that Ben Carson is so far away, he doesn't even know me, okay? So I said, can I look for a mentor that will resonate with me, that will understand me? So I went into now having my mentor as my pediatrician, the late Dr. Isi. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Because he saved my life several times. I had malaria, and he became my mentor because I could see him. At least I could go there and resonate with what he's, and I could ask him questions. When I came to med school, again, my mentor changed because I realized that pediatrician, my interest was in obs-gyn. So my mentor changed to someone else now is an obstetrician who could be able to walk me through the journey. As time went by, actually we had started a mentorship program for medical students. I don't know that it's continuing. What we had in mind was, it started when you reach year 1, we get a year 3, year 4, year 5 to walk with you through the journey. And then we also had lecturers who could form that circle. So you could be, we used to ensure that your lecturer would have the lecturer meet at least once per month with all the mentors. Of course, there are those who did very well. Some of them could go and buy people nice lunches and dinners at Kempiski and nice hotels. Some of us, we could meet in the corridors in the Ward 6. Ukimaliza ward round nawaambia kujeni sasa, I want to talk to you guys. I'm not so sure that is continuing right now. As time moved by or went by, when I got my first job, I had a different mentor because now I was getting to public health field. When I came back for my MEd, again, I changed a bit. And one of the things that comes clear, if you listen to me very well, okay? If you listen to me very well, what I'm trying to say is, do you have a mentor at any stage in your development? And if you don't have a mentor, can you look for one? Okay? Can identify one? Because it makes a lot of difference for you to work with someone who will actually show you the connections that some of you first time where you come from, even me where I came from, I think I was among the first doctors ever. Okay? Because the other doctor was like, had come like 20 years earlier. So there was a long period before. So when I went home as a first year medical student, I remember I met 5 people in the village waiting for me to treat them. They were like, Daktari ametoka University Nairobi, nataka ututibu. Then I was like, I only know about cadavers in Chirobo Mortuary. I have no idea even how to treat. But in their mind, they knew that is what I had come to school to do. So do you have a mentor? And is that mentor adding value to your life? Okay? So that you can ask them questions in terms of networks. Because I found that very, very relevant, very strong, very heavy. So that you can identify with someone who can be able to work with you, okay? And tell you, you know, when I was doing my electives, my mentor told me, I work at Aga Khan. Can you come to Aga Khan for electives? Social capital. We had applied, so many of us, but by virtue of the fact that I associated with him, I got that position because I could go to theater with him and he could allow that I go to theater. If I didn't have that mentor, I would not have gotten an elective position in Aga Khan for that matter. So please, I would say that in summary, a mentorship works and they may change over time, but it helps you to understand. The second thing is, please try to stand out in the crowd. Don't allow yourself to be average. So, when you do something, do it so well. And Martin Luther King said this at some point. If I was given a broom to sweep this classroom or the streets, I will sweep so well such that whoever comes will ask, who swept this? So that I can give them another job to sweep. Just paraphrasing what he said. So when you get into being a student, do your studies so well such that even when the marks come out, even if you have a C, but you know very well you did your level best, you'll be more content, okay, than getting an A minus for that matter, when you know very well you could have gotten an A. You'll be more dissatisfied for that matter. So stand out in the crowd so that people can pick you from the crowd. And where I usually tell my colleagues at work that whatever you do is divine. Your work is divine. Being a student here is divine. It's not everyone who wanted to do medicine is here. So by virtue of you being here, is divine. Okay? So I always, because the world is actually watching, the world is interviewing, and it will actually pick out. Naturally, natural selection happens. So those who are outstanding will be picked out. Those who are not as outstanding, unfortunately, you will be left behind. Okay? So if you have capacity to do what you're supposed to, do it so well such that the world can pick you, and then opportunities will come. Nowadays, and I have said this before to many people, some people think I brag, I don't look for jobs. Jobs look for me. Okay? At some point when I was joining AMREF, I had 4 jobs at the same time at my desk. So whoever is saying that how is medicine in the next 10 years, there are opportunities out there. But what distinguishes you from that other colleague who is stomaching is maybe what you've been able to understand. Jobs look for me because I've taken time to build my portfolio, and people know what I'm able to do. I don't apply for jobs just for the sake of it. I don't see an advert and just submit my application. People have to look for me and say, Doc, tumeona advert mahali fulani, can you submit? That's the only time I do submit right now. But for a start, you may need to go through all those stages for you to reach this level. It may take a bit of time. But just be able to, whenever you get into, those of you are in 60 years, how many of us are 60 years here? I'm talking to you now, okay? When you're second year, kidogo, ngoja kidogo. Those ones in 60 years are the ones I'm talking to you now. Such that you be able to distinguish yourself and be able to actually cut a niche for yourself and be able to be identified out there. I liked what he asked, this young gentleman, in terms of how can you reduce from 10 years to 5 years, okay? When I was doing my MEd, and I was given an opportunity when I was in year 2 to make a presentation, because we usually have a teach-back system. I was actually making a presentation on ovarian function. I did it so well until my lecturer said, can you come, you start locum in my clinic from tomorrow, okay? What am I saying? Opportunities get those who are prepared for them. If I hadn't done a very good presentation, and from second year, I used to run his clinic until now. So when I finished school, I still go to his clinic, and I could be paid some little money for that. What I'm saying is, even in second year, as a student, it's an opportunity somewhere, prepare for it, look for it, and actually go out of your way to knock on those doors. And don't shy away from being said no, told no. If you knock on a door and you're told no, knock again, okay? Knock again, so that opportunities can come your way. There are so many opportunities in AMREF. If you went and checked the AMREF International University, okay, just Google AMREF International University, AMU, you'll get so many short courses. Some of them could be relevant to you right now. I benefited from that. When again I was in MEd, I did a short course in statistics. And that's how I managed to help 200 students to analyze their data. And I made my money. Okay? So is there something you can do? What prevents you from, if you are interested in statistics and doing that short course in statistics, and then you can be able to even analyze data for They made students. A lot of them here in these corridors, by they struggle. Okay? So if you have some free time, and I know second years you have a lot of free time, how much things change? Just doing second year. So what are you doing for yourselves when you are in second year, okay? Very important thing that you must consider. So can you do a short course that can benefit you so that as you come back to year 3, year 4, year 5, because year 4, 5, 6 may be a bit complicated if we do that. But can you add on, if you have the position to, the chance to rather, can you do something that will add value to you so that you can actually be able to make some little money as you move on, or even be able to add value to you so that when you are coming after internship, you are now presenting your CV to us. You know, if someone has done something extra, I'll put them aside. But you are a mainstream, conventional doctor, again, I'll put you aside. Because I look at this as initiative. I look at this other one as lack of initiative. So whom should I consider? Person who has initiative. Because both of you are in the same school, but someone did something extra. So when I employ such a person, I know even if I give them a job, they'll have initiative to do much more compared to this one who will just be sitting there to be told what they are supposed to do. Okay? So that's how I can respond to that. The opportunities are there, but how do you identify them? How do you get mentorship? Nowadays, I talking about coaching. I'm a certified coach. And a coach is different from a mentor because these folks here, I'm not so sure they will have a problem if they pick some of you to be their mentees or their coaches, for that matter. That's the word that we usually use. I'm not so sure they'll have a problem, maybe one or two, so that you can be able to actually, personally I will not have a problem. Can identify one or two of you who are interested in being taken through this. We work together and then we see how can we support you. Nowadays there are virtual platforms. You can have a call, 1 hour. I don't think I can miss to have an hour per week in my busy schedule to just coach a few of you into how to move beyond medical school, for that matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll be brief, and I'll start just by giving the issue of connections and whether there are opportunities, just from my own story. When I went into media, I didn't know anyone at all. I simply just walked and said I want to talk to the editor or the person in charge, and I went and I presented my case. So what I said the first time, they thought, yeah, we'll call you. The second time, luckily, I got somebody who thought I had an interesting pitch that they thought I could work with. So sometimes you just have to be bold and put yourself out there. And even when usually, if ever you're looking for jobs and tarmacking, you just say, Chris, I think I want to change to something else, or Wangari. Just tell people who know you that you're looking for other different opportunities, because then you become top of mind. So you don't necessarily need connections. And it's the same thing, what opportunities lie there in the future. No medic had ever done media before in Kenya. It's an opportunity. It's literally a job I created and carved out for myself. So sometimes you can take your talent plus the medicine, see how you can combine it and create a job for yourself. So really, I usually say MBCHB, being a doctor, allows you to be anything, whatever it is that you want to be. So the opportunities are as diverse as your passions, your talents, and your willingness to put yourself out there. The question on family, I was brought up, we are two girls. I was brought up by a single parent, my mom, and she's been supportive. So one of the things that she always told us, because it wasn't an easy life being brought up. Most people think I was brought up in town. No, I was brought up in the village. One of my memories in the village is weeding sugarcane. And by the time you get out of there, if you dare shower, I don't know if you guys have been in the village, because no, Wangari's village is just here. She's a city. So yes, As in, if you've ever been in that plantation, because imekugwara nini nini, then you shower. Hey. So that's my kind of upbringing. And so what my mom used to tell us was that at her stage, it was a metaphor. Sisi ni wakale, so maziwa ni lazima, even if you're suffering. But it was a metaphor that for her, she may be bringing up her children to kukunywa strungi. And if you're Kale, you know strungi means you're really, really poor. So that in future, her children are able to afford to take tea with milk. Basically, that she's struggling, she's doing her level best where she is so that we can have a better future. So being a firstborn, pressure. I wanted to be a doctor, always wanted to be a doctor. Always got a question, were you forced to do medicine, then you went to journalism? No, I wanted to be a doctor. Then after medicine, thought of something else. So mine was for me to pick up from where she left. So her education got to high school. So my target was to get to university. And at the time it was just university. Then I realized, oh my God, I'm bright. I can do medicine. And so that's why I was like, okay, I think I can dream and do medicine. And so that's how it became. And so it was never pressure from the family. It was just, what do you want to do? I'll support you to do that. Okay, but then she was not so happy when I went into media. But after she saw what media did, then she was like, okay, happy. And then now, I don't know where she is. I think she's just happy that I am independent, I can make my money, and I still have my title as a doctor. And, you know, you're not bothering your parent and saying, you know, I need A, B, C, and D. You can stand on your own. And that's really, and for everyone, that's what your parent wants at the end of the day, that as a child, you're able to stand on your own. You're not graduating as a medical doctor and still going back home and asking for money, because then you'll have disappointed and wasted all the opportunities. So as a firstborn, as a girl, all of those pressures. But for me, my family has been very supportive and has been very good in that they have been open-minded. Sometimes they understand, they don't understand. But since it works out, okay, it's fine. And it's been good for me. I have no complaints whatsoever. Then the issue of being a woman in certain leadership positions, do you find yourself in tough spaces? I did in media. So you can imagine already, I don't want to say aggressive, because men who are like us are called bold, assertive. So I'm confident, but you as a woman, you'll be called aggressive, abrasive, you know, all of those kind of words. So I'm that person, but I'm bold. And so already, I'm in a newsroom where I'm probably, well, an A student, then the rest are probably somewhere. As she says, when you come here, everyone is a doctor, all of us are the same. But in other space, umefanya MBCHB, you can MA communications, you are eloquent and all of these things, so you get into trouble. If I were a man, I don't think I would have been in trouble. But because now you're a woman, you seem like you're destabilizing the status quo. But I was unapologetic about it, because you have to, somebody has to open those doors so that anyone coming later is not viewed the same. It's not easy, it's usually difficult and stressful, but somebody has to do it at some point. You have to break all those barriers. If other women, if they did not go to Beijing in 1995, probably before some of you are born, maybe will not be sitting here and speaking the way we are speaking, because that's when now the affirmative action, women empowerment, and all of those things started. So the onus is on us to carry on that mantle and make sure that we change those narratives. The same way I was saying, why are only women being asked about work-life balance and men are not being asked? So it's up to us to change that. And sometimes it may take your own personal sacrifice as a woman in those spaces, but somebody has to do it. So you'd find we'd be in meetings and other people are agreeing with the gentleman, but now you are the only one with a dissenting voice. Then people see you as being difficult and stubborn, but you have to speak your mind so that they understand that in this table we are equal. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in this table. So don't be afraid to do that. And then two, and this I tell to all doctors, you have a collective responsibility to the whole. If I were in media and I do funny things, watu watasema, madaktari wanakuanga A, B, C, and D. But when you go out in those spaces that are difficult, then people will be like, okay, these doctors are A, B, C, and D. So you carry a responsibility to all of us, the same way all of us here carry the same collective responsibility to maintain the name. And it's much harder for women, but it's doable. And you get people that support you. So in one or two of those spaces, there were men who backed me up and supported me. And so sometimes you get men who identify as women, not in that way, but who support women. And so those are the ones who will carry you through so that you're able to break those barriers. And most importantly, it may not work for you at that point, but it will work for those who are coming after you. And it will make life much more easy for those ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Asante. Now, Gashigi has sent me M-Pesa to ensure that this question is also asked as you answer the others on the place for, the question is gone. The question is gone, I tell you. She was specifically asking on how do you handle mentorship as a woman in this male-dominated world. So as you answer the rest, you can tap that in.
I'm trying to see which ones were not answered, because I think my colleagues have touched a lot. There was a question from the not doctor, not medical student on hybrid career. And I think it's an interesting idea. I struggle to say yes or no, because I told you I live in a gray world. I actually think it gets to a point in your life where certification, whether it be by degree, diploma, whatever, becomes, how do you describe it, like on-job training. It's just things you do. There's this degree we do as medicine as a first one has the misillusion that that is your career for the rest of your life. It can be, if this is what you wish for yourself. It also doesn't have to be. So I wouldn't feel like I need to create a new hybrid career that fits both law and medicine. There are people who actually do medicine and then study law, and there are a few of our colleagues who are in that space, or who study medicine, then study law, who study engineering, and then study music, and find a way in which to combine them in the future. I don't know that if then that was created, then it solves for a critical gap. I think if it is a critical gap, it'll crystallize. When us guys went to medical school, I think there was only surg and ortho. There was no cardiothoracic. There was no plastic surg. There was when you finish medicine and you wanted to do plastic surgery, you did surgery first, and then you go do your fellowship in plastic surgery somewhere else. So the gap crystallizes kind of organically. That's the word I was looking for. And then the opportunity creates. Urology was the same. There was no urology. You did surgery and then you go somewhere and do. Oncology was the same. So those are examples in clinical medicine, but I can see a world in which if those kind of hybrid careers were a gap, in the example we've given, law and medicine, in medicine and politics, whatever, they will crystallize. Otherwise, doing them one after the other, I don't think is also a bad, or a waste of time, so to speak. At some point, as I was trying to make the point, these extra certification, by whichever way, including marriage, just become things that you add on to your life as you go along it, if that makes sense. So you just keep acquiring them as you want them, right? Even at 60, even at 8, as long as you have the capacity to, in every sense of that word. The mentorship question is a tricky one. I've often found mentors in spaces where I wasn't looking for them. I realized that I was mentored retrospectively. That makes sense. That you look back in your life and then you realize you're kind of behaving this way because there were certain people in your life who influenced you in a particular direction. There are people who really need that almost one-on-one connection, that coaching type of relationship. And then there are different times in your life that you need one or the other. I will say this about coaching. There is no world-class athlete that does not have a coach. There is no world-class, that's not a word. There isn't. There is no is not a word, right? There's no world-class athlete. That phrase is wrong, I'm sure. Mrs. Simi would have said it's wrong. Who does not have a coach. And I say that, and then I'm going to take it a bit clinical now. So whenever we seek help mental health-wise, be it from a psychiatrist or a psychologist, it's shunned upon. This person is sick, and oh yeah, they can't cope, they need therapy. I want to flip that in your mind for those who haven't had that epiphany. There isn't a world-class athlete without a coach. And so if you are at a point where you need a coach, and I'm trying to suggest that at a certain performance level, world-class athlete style, you will need a coach to get to those higher echelons. And the guys who run like the World Bank, like Jim Kim when he was running it, Antonio Gutierrez, those guys have coaches. So it's not a bad thing. It actually is a thing you will need to unlock those higher powers. There was a specific question. Oh, you sat there again. I thought it was you. On careers in State House, it really depends. You could be the president. The first Chilean woman who was president was a medical doctor. So you can be president if this is your desire, and then you follow that path. That path is often not through LT3, but it can be. You just need to take the direction thereafter. You could be the president's physician, and some of the doctors, including in these grounds, have been the president's doctors. They have medical needs. And then you can be in the policy space like I was. I was advising in the office, and I think you guys know Dr. Thuranira, who's also there now. And he's doing similar things. He comes from a different background. He's coming from a pathology background. I'm coming from a different background. So you can be there in many capacities. You can be there and doing absolutely nothing to do with medicine or health. So again, it's situational and it's the opportunity you create. I'll attempt to infer that you asked the question because there is probably glamour associated with that job. And maybe some of the jobs that we hold now. And yes, I can understand why, if I was in second year, I would imagine this job is glamorous. No, I can. I also thought that cardiac surgery was glamorous. And I'm really wondering why no one has asked how much money we make. You're not interested? No, you're not interested. It's 9:45. Nobody has asked, so I'll not answer. But I'll strongly encourage you guys to have that question. Be bold, especially to ask each other. Last thing for the ladies, you're usually grossly underpaid, and you never know until you leave. You can be paid as much as $50,000 less than your male counterpart for the same job, for whom you probably have 3 times the qualification, as Mercy has just described to you. She had 3 degrees to be an editor in a newsroom, in the same newsroom where an editor has a diploma, and she's probably being paid less. Learn to ask. We find conversations on money very personal and very, therefore I can judge you. Why are you wearing butter shoes or, whatever. It's absolutely not about that, and we cut each other down very unnecessarily. And I'm not asking because then, therefore, this salary figure equals prestige or glamour. It really isn't. Live streaming means recording or not recording. Okay, so I can't swear. So it's not, a bad person is a bad person, whether they are rich or not.
Pause
And
kidogo,
a good
pause
person.
kidogo alafu
I'm not sure. Unless I see, I'm not sure that he has. But the point I was making is not just that money makes you a good person or not, or a glamorous job makes you a good person or not. At the end of the day, what really matters is who you are as a human being and how you show up to the other citizens of the world. And the first citizens that matter are your family, whether they're the ones who gave birth to you or the ones that you choose in life, a partner, and the ones you give birth to. How do you show up to those people and the community and everyone else who comes across you? Are you being angelic or demonic? And that is a choice you make regardless of how many zeros are in your bank account, regardless of how glamorous your job is. And being true to that self, whether in the family, whether in the job, is a lot more glamorous than the physical things that you will acquire. The sooner you can have that revelation for yourself, the sooner you can have it for yourself. It's a state of mind, and I know it sounds ridiculous to say that when you don't have money. How do you understand that poverty is a state of mind and so is wealth? It will take time. Some of you probably have this revelation already. Some of you are yet to have it. The sooner you do, then the less ridiculous you look when you're 70, and then you look like you just walked out of a poster, Balenciaga from here till here, and it has to say it in the big boldest things. You look a little silly, but hopefully that revelation comes to you soon, and then you realize that actually you should be using your resources, skills, talents, time, to be making the world a better place. Because that's probably, for some of you, part of the reason you came to medical school, so you're on the right path. Please complete it. There was a question on balance between clinical, and it wasn't asked to me, it was asked to Dr. Chris. But I wanted to answer, does Prof. Macharia still teach? The ENT surgeon? In addition to being an ENT surgeon, who else knows what is on his CV? No? You
Equity?
can't say. You also can't say.
Sorry.
That's what I want to do. What does he do in Equity? He's the chair of? The limitation is really in your mind. It's up to you. The world is truly your oyster. You can do it all or none of it. As a parting shot, it's also very, very okay to be average. Please don't kill yourself trying to be stellar performers. Your only responsibility in this world is to yourself. Repeat after me. Your only responsibility in this world is to yourself. If you're not alive, you can't take care of your family. And by here life, I mean in the full sense of it, yeah? Not just a beating heart. In your mind, in your able to, your only responsibility is to yourself. And so if you're okay, looking for a job as an emo, or living it, going to work as a teller, or living that, or being a stay-at-home, whatever you're okay doing, please. It is also very okay to not be an overachiever like us. It's time.
Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. I think we have picked up on so much, and we've had such a wonderful time, haven't we? It's been a wonderful time of learning and experiences, and we are so, so grateful for this time that you have spent. Love to welcome you back to your seats as we get to the round of closing. Let's appreciate them as they go. Asante sana. Asante sana. Good. So we are way past time, but we've